don't work, I take a second to breathe, yeah. Breathe in, breathe out. Couple rain clouds ain't gon' get me down. I say, breathe in, breathe out. I'm getting back to me. All the things I do, all the things I say, all the times I took a chance, all of the mistakes I made, none of it matters. None of it matters at all.
So, you got anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's always things to talk about, right? There's always stuff that we can...
I mean, I've had an interesting week of just going through withdrawals. that could be what we talk about this episode, going through withdrawals.
Yeah.
Because you had a very different experience from what I had.
Yeah. Today is 3 weeks for me.
Mm-hmm. I'm only on day 4, but it feels like an eternity.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're used to smoking every single day, multiple times a day, just for the hell of it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's definitely a big change for us. We've been doing this on the daily. It's like a part of our ritual every single day, and then all of a sudden you're not doing that like with your friends, but I think the biggest part for me is like I started with doing it like I was like, no, you can only smoke when like your friends are around, like, but you can't turn to it like when you're alone and you're not doing anything. And then it just became, well, like, why don't I just see if I can do it like by myself and not like, and then it just completely overturned and was like, okay, like, just gonna see what happens if I don't do this, like, and then I got like really fucking depressed.
We were both kind of giving ourselves like outs, like, oh, this isn't the end, like we're only gonna do it during this time, or we're only gonna do it during this time, and then it kind of just became like, this is stupid, let's just nix it and see what happens.
Yeah, you're always like making an excuse and like using it as a crutch, I guess. And I look forward to, maybe a day where it's like a special treat. But for the moment right now, I think it's for the best to just see what happens when like you cut it out, because I don't think you start to like really feel the benefits of it until like a month out, especially like the effects on like your brain and the mental health aspect.
Yeah, I mean, they say it's like 21 to 25 days to get it out of your system, and that's like if you don't do it regularly. Like, we were doing it regularly, like, every day for 10 plus years, so that being said, like, how much of it is in there and how long is it actually going to take to get out, we don't know, but we'll find out. It does help to have the whoop, though, because at least we get some data feedback, like, almost instantly. I mean, I saw something yesterday in my whoop that I had never seen before, and then today I saw something else that was like significant data. I'm sure you've seen stuff too. Has anything changed in your normal baseline stats?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one that I noticed at first was like that daily recap where it tells you how long you're in the high stress zone for. Like, I've gotten it now to like almost every day I'm underneath a half an hour, and when I was doing it, it was like hour and a half. So like I'm immediately like putting that less stress on my heart, like, and that was the first thing I noticed, where I was like, okay, like I'm doing this to cope with the anxiety of it, but in reality it's making me more anxious, because like your heart is the life force. So
and you're just pumping it, so it's, I mean, heart only has so many beats in it, and then you're speeding it up like that, you know what I mean? So it's only beneficial to stop.
Well, it's like doing one thing to combat another thing, but that thing that you're doing to combat it isn't like, I guess, healthy for you. Or at least, it's more of like a comfort thing. Like you're doing it for the whole sake of, it's like you're adding it on top of it, but it's only like, it's like a, I don't know what the right word is, but it's like you're replacing it with something else, and the only way that it's helping you is the like mental feeling of it versus the like actual benefit. I don't know if that really, I don't really even think that that makes sense, but
I feel like for me, like I was starting to get anxious when I was smoking, like toward the end, like right before, like recently, and like that anxiety that I felt, like I was just like I felt anxious, and I thought that smoking was going to make it better, but it was like just the process of getting ready to smoke, like rolling up, breaking up the weed, and then like starting to smoke. Like you're like, oh, this is, it's because it's like almost nostalgic, you know what I mean? Like it's like a comfort feeling that you would go to. It's like turning on a comfort show. Like that, the beginning process of smoking was comforting, and then like once I was high, I was like, oh fuck, this sucks.
yeah, I think also it comes from. I mean, I'm curious if you resonate with this too. That it's like you resonate more with that process of it because when we first started like smoking on a regular basis, what that meant was we were either like out and about and we were like free from whatever like was going on at like our house or like our relationship or whatever was going on there, or you're at your house or you're doing whatever, but like nobody's there to like tell you what to do. So it was it's like that feeling of freedom that like I can do what I want and nobody's gonna like catch me doing something. And like you associate, like I've always associated smoking weed with, like, you know what I mean? It's the same thing as like, oh, I can't smoke weed like exactly at the time that I'm on my job, but like as soon as like people leave or like I'm in my car or I'm on the way home, now I can do it. I'm free from whatever was like holding me back on that.
Yeah, I think for me, like when I first started smoking all the time, it was like when we were still in high school. So for me, it was like, classes are over. I'm done. I'm about to chill with the boys for the day, and like,
Yes, exactly.
time to light a blunt. Like, this is gonna make everything better. I'm gonna be so much more relaxed. Like, you know, like we used to just like get done with school, roll up 2 blunts, and then go play basketball, and like it was fun. Like so, like
Yeah.
it felt like that was trying like what you were trying to get back to, but it was never gonna be that again. You know, like. It's only like
Yeah.
that the first time.
I mean, even think about how, like, we used to do this all the time, like, on holidays. We would spend, like, the whole day with our families, and then, like, the boys would get together at the end of the day to, like, decompress. And, like,
Yeah.
that was when we smoked the most. Everybody would, like, it'd be like, if you didn't bring your own, you're not smoking.
Remember when we used to do like Super Blunt Sunday, and we would just like
Yes.
get like 5 of us together with like everybody had an eighth, and we would just all roll a blunt and then just hotbox one car.
Yeah.
Like with 4
Like, how did-
people in it and 4 blunts going around. And like how did we ever like get to that? And like, you know?
But yeah, I think, like I said, it's that. I think that, like, I never even really thought about it until this moment, which is that it's the feeling of that, like, I can do what I want. Nobody is gonna tell me what to do right now, I think it carries over. You know, it carried over into adulthood when even like if you live alone or like, you know, nobody's home or whatever it is, that carries over into being associated with relaxing, associated with being calm, or like associated with being able to sleep good at night or being able to enjoy a movie better. And when it becomes like this, like it started as something smaller, but then became like, well, what else do I have to relax with?
It's almost like at the beginning of Half Baked when he goes to drop off weed to that one guy, and he's just like, "Have you ever done this high? Have you ever done that high? Like everything's better when you're high, man." And
He's like,
it's
you
not.
ever seen the back of a $5 bill on weed? That's Jon Stewart,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I think it is. I'm not positive. I haven't seen that movie in a very, very long time.
I think it's Jon Stewart, but I could be wrong. That'd be
Yeah,
an interesting one. Like that would be an interesting movie to watch sober now.
Yeah, and just be like, why was this funny in the first place?
But now
It's almost.
Go ahead.
You're good.
But now, like, it's interesting, doesn't, because like the ending line in that movie is, he's like, because I love weed. He's like, but not as much as I love pussy. Doesn't that have
I
a
mean,
little bit
like-
more of a meaning now?
Yeah. I mean, like, what did we find, like, entertaining and funny that when we were on, like, the drinking out of cups video definitely wouldn't be funny now.
No, I think I'd still find that funny.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's definitely some things that wouldn't be. Like, I can't
I might
think
get
of
high
anything
just
off
from
the top of-
watching that video.
Yeah. I mean, again, though, that comes back, like, you think it'd still be funny today, or do you think it's funny because it's nostalgic?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, like I don't think
Yeah,
if I
'cause it
don't know
takes
if I
you back
watched
to
it
that
for
space.
that's such an interesting thing to think about. Like, because it's not like you can, like, I'll never forget what that video is like. I'd have to get dementia to forget what that video is like.
Yeah.
But I genuinely don't know if I would be able to, like, or if I would find that funny now.
That movie,
If,
that
like-
video is like 7 minutes long too. Like that's a long time to sit there and listen to him just ramble on about nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That is a good point though, because I do, you know, I told you about how, like, I had like a thing with whenever like the credits roll in a movie or like the theme song rolls in a TV show, it's like that's the thing to like, oh, okay, like that means like I gotta pack the bong and like get ready now. But now I feel like when I watch movies, even like just doing the podcast together too, like now I feel like I watch them in a different way. Or that like I experience them in a different way because like there's always new movies coming out. So it's like you can now experience something, or you can go back and you can say like, okay, like did I find this funny? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think nostalgia is a very, very powerful feeling. Like if something like brings on like a past memory, especially if it's like a good one, like it's hard to not want to be back in that moment. But like it's never going to be the same. Like you physically can't go back in time, you know what I mean? So I think it's a fine line that you walk when you're like, "Oh, this like reminds me of this, so I want to do it." And like how I don't know how to put it.
It's funny
It's
though,
like
but now like we can't just be like, oh, I'm high right now. I don't know what happened. Like I lost my train of thought. Like, sorry guys, I'm high. Like,
Yeah.
it's not an excuse.
No, now
on the
I'm just like,
podcast
I'm-
anymore.
Yeah. I mean, damn. Yeah, so both of us stopped smoking. We got that.
Well, it's weird too because it's like I don't know, in a way it's like it's part of your, like we did it so much that it's like part of your personality.
It's almost an ego death, like by stopping. You know what I mean?
Well, in a way, like, you know, we've been trying to, you know, make these better choices, do better things for ourselves, and that was maybe not the last stand or the last straw of it, but that was like the thing that we were hanging on to that was like, no, this is this thing that I still need to like maintain sanity.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like, how do you feel now without, because you're at 3 weeks, I'm at 4 days, but I honestly feel like significantly better without it. Like, I'm not getting anxious, and like, when I do get anxious, it's a lot easier to get out of that mind frame, like to just step back and be like, just take a deep breath. These thoughts that are going on, like, they're just gonna run through and do their thing real quick, and then they're gone. Like, it's not like it used to be, like, if I was high and I, like, got into a funk, it's like, I'm kind of fucking stuck here until, like, I'm not high anymore. Like, I want to take a nap so this goes away.
Yeah, I definitely feel as though, I think for me, honestly, the biggest thing might even not be the, like, whatever the physical effects are. Like, those are great, like, but I think just proving to myself that I could do it. Like, in a way, it was like other things that you're doing to like, better yourself, or things that you're cutting out of your life. But that was always the one thing that you said, like, okay, like this is the thing that I can't let go of, because like things might really fall apart. Like I have no clue what's gonna happen if I just completely like cut that out, because that's been the thing that's been, I'll say, holding me up for all this time. So like like I've obviously noticed like there's less stress on my heart. I'm not anxious. I don't get stuck as easily. But I think just proving to myself that I could do it allows for a way to see that like to like be able, it's like confirming to yourself that nothing is like set in stone that you have to do. And that things can change, and that no matter like how built up a habit is, no matter how ingrained you feel in like the culture of something, that you can let go of it. So I think it's like opening me up to other ways that's like, okay, I don't have to do this in a way that like controls my whole life.
I think for me, it's like, because smoking weed is actually like the last. I'm sober now. You know what I mean? Like, no drinking.
You're not
no
California
drugs.
sober.
I'm not smoking weed anymore. Like before, it was like I had stopped drinking and I stopped doing drugs, and like you could definitely see the effects of it. But like this is the closest I've been to myself, and God knows how long. Because I'm actually like all the way present now. Like before, I was getting back to myself, but I wasn't fully there. And now it's like I can like appreciate myself a little bit more, I guess, because I can be like, oh, well, you're not that hard to be around, like like I'm not driving myself crazy. Like I don't need to smoke to deal with myself anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for myself too, like that was the thing that I also like relied upon to, we talked about on the podcast being like, oh, if I forget what I'm saying, I can just be like, oh, I'm high right now. But I think that it gives me more confidence in like real life situations around other people, because I used to tell myself that like, I absolutely need this in order to like interact with people. And that was like the fallback of, well, if I say something stupid, or I do something dumb, or like I say something out of character or whatever, I can just be like, sorry guys, I'm like really high right now. And now like I can't do that. Like, like, but I also think that it then creates, I think for myself, it definitely creates a thing where like it's itching towards that, or it's inching towards that more authentic self. That
Like this is
something external isn't like a part of. We're getting good at this though. We're getting good at like being able to
just stop.
Yeah, it's that that something external isn't a part of, doesn't have to be a part of you in order to make you your authentic you.
Yeah, like you don't have to be the guy that's high all the time to be yourself. Like you can just be sober and be like, this is who I am. Like, you know what I mean? I just realized that you got the crew behind you on the shelf, the Funkos.
Oh,
yeah, I didn't just realize that that's where you put them.
it just didn't seem right to keep them
in the boxes.
In the boxes.
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I gotta leave the Funkos behind, bro. But I don't know. I like them.
So, I mean, we've been talking about what it's like now, like to not be smoking all the time. You want to go into a little bit more detail of what it was like when you first stopped, because I feel like that's something that people can resonate with, like when you first quit doing something, like the thoughts, the emotions, the patterns that come up from actually putting something down and stopping it.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely, because it's funny how, like, I think it took, because when I got all that, like, anxiety and, like, overwhelming depression, it wasn't like 2 or 3 days after I had stopped. It was like a week and a half. So something tells me that, I don't know, maybe there was, something with the holidays and things like that. But where I think, and this is kind of what I said earlier, but I think where that intersected was like the realization of you're becoming more of yourself. And when for, I don't know, I'll say 10, 15 years, you've been putting up this, I don't want to call it a front, because it's not like I smoked weed and then all of a sudden, like, I was this, like, completely different, like, person. But it was a realization that, like, oh, I'm doing something different. I'm experiencing life in a brand new way. And I think it took, like, a week and a half for me to, like, really, like, feel the effect of that. And then, I've done it before where you go like a week or whatever without it, and then something inevitably happens that, makes life hard to deal with. And you're all of a sudden like, well, now I have an excuse to do this. And when your brain and your body, like, rely upon that, they're creatures of habit. They're bound to, like, resist back when, they're bound to, like, resist back when you deal with, like, internal turmoil in a different way. And I think compounded with trying to make other decisions that are better and looking out for yourself and not being able to deal with the fact of, oh, I'm this type of person now. This is how I deal with stuff now. It's not I turn to this every single time that something goes wrong. That becomes like panic mode for your receptors and the way your body processes things. And I think that there was just this overwhelming sense of, are you going to fall back into that? Because, like, that's where we feel comfortable. Or are you going to keep making steps forward?
Yeah, I get that.
But I mean, I don't know if there's a, like I said, I think that it's multiple factors going on at the same time. And that I don't fully understand that, but I think that that's what I'm starting to embrace is tomorrow's a new day, and now, like, I have to on the fly come up with better, healthier ways of dealing with stress and dealing with insecurity and dealing with like being your authentic self that aren't something external that you just put into your body and say like, okay, now I'm back to me. Like that was never really you.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know where I was going.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, not really a response to that. Like, I was kind of just like, that
Well, you're
was
still
your
in,
statement.
yeah, and I mean, like you'll probably be able to comment on that more when you've gone without it a little bit longer, because it's obviously affecting us both in different ways, but we can still, like, even though we're experiencing it in different ways, we can definitely, like, resonate with how it's affecting each other.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was very much a physical thing more than a mental thing. Like, I never thought of myself as somebody who would go through that experience, but, like, that was a rough night 2 nights ago. Just, like, actually experiencing what withdrawal symptoms are like. And, like, I sent you that article. I'm in such a small percentage of people that actually hit that from just quitting weed, and like a lot of I wonder if it has to do with like, was that such a crutch for such a long time for me that like when I quit doing everything else that my body was still able to function until I stopped doing that? Because like my shit shut down on me on Tuesday night, you know, like I just cold sweats and fucking couldn't sleep, irritable. Like that's not something I ever thought would happen from stopping smoking weed, you know. They make that seem like it's only something that like happens when you quit doing opioids or some shit like that. And like they don't tell you that the withdrawal symptoms from marijuana can also be just as nasty as they are from a high level opioid.
Well, yeah, and we don't want to. I guess we don't want to make it like it's as bad, but I think that we kind of thought that like nothing would happen, right? That
Yeah.
like that it would be like all positive, and that there's and like I said, I think that for somebody who like casually smokes here and there and then stops, they wouldn't experience whatever we're doing. But like, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, and like I said, I don't want to shit on anybody who smokes because I know what that's like, and people have different relationships with it. It's just it's kind of like how I still drink and you don't. That like I just have a different relationship with alcohol. But like the only way that we would be able to do it is by just cutting it off completely. Because then if you're just like allowing these little rules like, oh, when my friends are around, I can do this, or like when something really stressful happens, or if I've had a really long day at work, then I can do it. But then you're giving yourself that little way out.
Yeah. I think it's very important to just like confront it right, like head on, than giving yourself those little outs. Because who knows if I would have stopped smoking if I wasn't like, if I kept giving myself those crutches, you know?
Well, no, and it's just kind of like a way. No matter what you do, if you're giving yourself that little bit of leeway, it's always going to make its way back in. And like I said, for different people, it's experienced in different ways. But I think, we were just like, it's either all or nothing on this one.
Yeah. Oh, my back is killing me. The next time we do this, I will definitely be in a seated position, like in an actual seat, not just sitting on the bed.
Oh yeah. We never clapped we'll do that at the end though.
Yeah.
To sync this up, yeah.
Yeah, that'll make that easier.
Yeah, one of the things I'm trying to work on too right now is like I've kind of fallen back into that routine of staying up late and waking up late as well. And it kind of started with when I wasn't getting good sleep, just trying to stay in bed and sleep longer. But now like I'm kind of back in that state of going to bed at 1, 2, sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning. And part of that is, knowing that full well at this point in my life, like I don't have to be up early for work or something else. But I'm trying to work on that and figure out a way to like get back into that routine, because I know that was the state that was better,
Yeah. It's hard, like, when you go... I had that little hiccup. It's not a hiccup, I was just sick, but, like, that really threw everything off for me. Like, the time that I was waking up, the time I was going to bed, like, the way I went about my routine. Like, I wasn't going to take a cold shower because I was in the middle of having a fucking fever, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's all about getting back into it. We say it all the time, and just don't miss twice. And, like, that's such a strong concept. Like, you can give yourself that one day, but don't make it a habit. And once you do make it a habit, it's now we have to start this process all over again. And that can be challenging, but I mean, you got through it the first time, right? You got into a rhythm where you could fall asleep early, you could wake up early, and like you could get your day going and feel more productive about it. So you do know that it's possible to get back to that point.
Yeah, and I think you start to discover other ways that you're kind of letting yourself slide, which is being like, oh, I can stay up late because I'm not smoking. Or I can stay in bed later because I'm not, and then you're just like you're weaving these little excuses into your life that are holding you back, and that's kind of part of it too, which is that like the victory's not over when you quit smoking. It's always something else. It's always something else. You're allowed to give yourself leeway in certain ways, but at some point you have to be like, am I doing my best? Am I being honest with myself?
Yeah.
And this is always a journey. That's why we're doing this. That's why because it's just like, we're not like, you may say like, oh, like these guys used to be potheads and now like they're like, no, like the journey of trying to be better is never over. Like you don't get to some point where like you put a medal around your neck and like, oh yeah, no, it's always like, it's like that video I sent you yesterday, which is that like addiction is the only thing that happens or that's healed one day at a time.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's no fucking podium. Like the work literally never stops. Like you're always going, and like that, I think that's something to take pride in, though. The fact that once you stack those days, like that's a big thing for me. Like I know exactly how long it's been since I quit drinking. I know how long it's been since I started meditating and like journaling. And like I can always look back, even when I have those rough days, like you stacked all these days together. You're going to let one bad day ruin all of this.
And I think that it also becomes like, like don't miss twice is a great way of saying it, but like sometimes it's like don't miss on the 6th day,
Yeah.
And that can, because it works the opposite way too, which is that those bad days, or I don't want to call it, or unproductive, or whatever you want to call it, days where you gave yourself more leeway than you should, those stack up too, and those get momentum too. And sometimes all it takes is just one day to be like, I'm not going to put up with that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, even for me on Tuesday night, like, going through all of that, like, I woke up yesterday and I was, like, getting a fucking cold shower, which is something I normally, like, probably wouldn't have done. Like, the past me wouldn't have. I would have been like, I don't feel good. I was, like, I had shitty sleep, like I just don't want to do this today. And I was like, you know what, get in there for the 3 minutes where it's fucking brutally cold and just deal with it. And I did. And yesterday getting out of the shower was so much more productive than any of the other days that I've gotten in there. You know what I mean? Because I really didn't want to do it. And like we talked about that on the last episode too, was like, if you don't want to do something, that's probably the best time to go do it. Like if you're sitting there thinking like, not today, like I don't feel like it, it's not my day, making excuses for yourself, just go fucking do it. Because once it's done, like then everything that you were just telling yourself, was a lie. It was a distraction, and like you're better than that, and you see that because you just fucking did what you said you wouldn't do.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've always struggled with and still is like the overthinking. So one of the things I've been trying to do is like, you said that like you're telling yourself all these lies, which is just like literally just ask yourself. I've been trying to just be like, what is true right now? Like literally what is true? Because oftentimes when you miss those 2 or 3 days, that becomes the only reality. And you say to yourself like, oh, I've been a piece of shit my whole life. And then it becomes very easy to like build around that. And then if you can bring yourself back to earth and say like, all right, what is true? All right, well, I didn't do my routine the last 3 days, or I didn't exercise the last week, or, whatever it might be that is making you feel like that is the only reality that exists. Like it's a lot more intimidating to say that I've been out of shape, I'm completely out of shape and I'm not the type of person who does this, versus just saying like, all right, no, like you went a week without doing it, but that's okay. Like, it's only a week. That's such a small portion of your life. Like, that is the actual truth. And I
Yeah.
think that applies to not only things that you do with yourself, but like it can get very easy to assume that because one thing happened, 100 other things are true. But realistically, it's only that one thing. And then everything else is this kind of like painting that you've painted yourself to add up all these things that this one thing that you did, whether it was your fault or not, is now like there's this whole other there's this like whole huge picture that you've built around this one thing, and just like bring yourself back and be like, okay, like what is true right now? Like what is really true right now about my life? And you might realize other things that you weren't paying attention to, but you also just might realize like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was, or that I'm and I just feel like sometimes being realistic with yourself is the best thing that you can do.
There's so many narratives that we come up with in our head, like of how our life is and how it should be and why it is the way it is. And it's like, if you just sit and be like, that's all fine, but the truth of the matter is like, this is how I am right now and this in this moment, and you start with that, and that's your first step. It's a lot easier to go down the narrative of I'm a good person who's bettering myself and building up the character to be who I want to be, rather than just I always go out and drink on Friday and Saturday night, and that's all I ever do on Friday and Saturday. I hang out with my friends, I get drunk, and then like I go home and I sleep till 12. Like that's the past narrative. That is no longer who you are. Like, this is a fresh moment. Like, be in that fresh moment.
Yeah, that's one of the things, like, I usually like I give myself the fact of like, all right, like usually Thursday nights is the night where I go out and I drink and I hang out with friends, but then I usually don't do that on other days. And I was talking to Justin about this, which is that, and we were saying how like, well, like how long can you really sit at a bar and not drink? And the answer for some people might be like, oh, well, eventually like I'm gonna, or something, but like, is that just like what you've conditioned yourself to think, that that's the truth? Or it's completely possible. I did it the last night. I sat there for 5 hours and drank water. Had a great time. Didn't, I mean, I'm not going to lie. We were passing around a little microdose of shroomies, but
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, you realize that like, okay, like it doesn't have to be the exact way. Like I know for a fact that, I don't, and I wouldn't say that like I use those as a crutch, but I know that is much healthier and much better for me than sitting there and having 5 drinks, even if it is over the course of a long period of time.
Yeah.
And that like hanging out with your friends doesn't have to be associated with smoking weed or doing a substance or having a certain amount of drinks. It may feel natural and it may feel like you've built up like this whole habit of it, but then you can yet again bring yourself back to the fact of like, what is true? The only thing that is made, you know what I mean? How many times have, some people, it might be the opposite of that, which is, oh, well, when I'm at home and I'm alone, I have to drink. And yeah, that you may fall into that habit and that may just be what you do, but you have to like bring yourself back to the truth, which is that like, all right, well, why do I have to do that? What makes me think that this is the like only choice that I have?
Yeah, man.
Did you have any other like what with the new year, like certain habits that you're trying to work on, or?
I mean, consistency, like just staying consistent, doing what I know is best for me. Like, it's like a lot. I'd say it's probably, one thing that I'd really like to work on is like being more comfortable with myself in a way. You know, I've gotten to the point where like I tell you like yeah, I don't really do a lot anymore. Like a lot of my time is spent isolated. Like I stay pretty like to myself. Like I'll go for walks, I'll do shit outside, like I'll go out and do things, but like for the most part I'm doing them by myself. And I think something that I want to become better with this year is like I know this is best for me. I honestly like don't want to go out and be like around people. Like I kind of like being off to myself doing my own thing. And sometimes because of how social I used to be and like because of the lifestyle that I used to live, like there's parts of me that are like, oh, you're missing out on everything. Like you're just not like I'm not you I tell myself I'm not happy like this, but like at the end of the day I know I am. Like I honestly I don't give a fuck about like what's going on with other people unless like they're close to me. Like I don't want to talk to random people. Like I don't want to just be in a social environment just for the sake of being in a social environment because it used to comfort the person that I was. Like I think like I know that that's best for me at this point, and it's just being okay with that. Like letting go of how I want it, how I used to want it to be, and like wanting it to be like that now when in reality that isn't what I want, you know? Like I like being this way. Like I'm working on who I'm going to be in the future, and I'd like to continue to do that without the distractions of like, oh, you're missing out on something because the old you used to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that takes time, and it's been hard. Like it's growth is not fucking easy, man. Like it's very complicated, and it can get rough and like dark, but at the same time like I know deep down like this is the best path for me, so I just need to stay the course, and like eventually that'll go away. Like a lot of the other stuff I've let go of, it just takes time and it'll go away. But I think that this year that being comfortable with myself and like knowing like this is what I truly want, like that's something that I'm really striving to work on.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. I think that's good. And I think that part of that too is probably understanding that like it's also like this is just like a phase in your life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That like you know, you move to a new city where like you don't know anybody. Like you're unsure of you know, where to find that community, but it's not going to be like that forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that yeah, like it may be easy right now to say this is what's better for me, and this is like I'm in a place right now where I have to get more comfortable with myself because I've spent many years prior relying upon, you know, being that guy or like being a certain type of person for other people, that you have to kind of like go back internally and say like, all right, well, what was missing that I was getting from others, and maybe it's other people who I didn't even like give a shit about, and like how can I give that to myself? And then how do you, when, like I said, I don't think things aren't going to be like that forever. Like you're not going to be spending all this time alone for like the rest of your life. But then and like it's almost like kind of cultivating this mindset that when that does start to change, how then do you not fall back into that same mindset that you had before, versus like, well, I went through this point in my life that now I can approach this in a very different way that's much healthier. That is, well, now I have this different group of friends that I hang around with, and we do these different things that aren't what I used to do. And how does that play into now when I spend time alone versus in a community of people?
Yeah, I think like a lot of it for me in the past was always just, it's like everybody seeks attention, you know what I mean? Like everybody wants attention for the sake of having the attention on them. And I think for me it's become a lot of, I only need attention from the people that I like like that are close to me, you know? Like I don't, like if my parents and my sister stopped like talking to me and acknowledging me, like that would deeply hurt. But like from people that I hung out with just because like I was at a bar. Like I don't give a fuck. Like, and I shouldn't, because like that's just attention for this, for the sake of having attention. Like, and I know like it's something that's validating to a lot of people, and it used to be to me, and like that's the biggest change right now for me is like just being okay with like I have you. Like I have Julianne, I have my family, like I have the people that are close to me, and that should be enough. And like the old me would always just be like, oh well, I have that, but like I need more. And like it's just, I think it's like the ego, just I was so ego driven that it's just trying to drop that person, like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to break off of what you don't need to. It's not like I need to get completely stop listening to my ego. Like it's there for a reason. Like it does help guide you in some situations, but you don't need to be so focused on what it wants and trying to please it all the time, because that's just, it's not healthy.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I can definitely resonate with that too. As you know, when you do what we do, and you know, or what I used to do for a living, and you very quickly like rely upon that that hope that like people will come and see you, or that you'll be the reason that people are having a good time. And honestly, like, you know what, man, like it's a weird thing to talk about, but like there is a certain amount of you know, it's empty, but in the moment it feels fulfilling to like be the person that's fueling the party. And whether that's with, you know, being the person behind the bar, or being the person who always has the drugs, or you know, like, and that, like I said, I mean, it may be empty, but it does feel like really fucking good in the moment, you know? Like
It satisfies the ego.
Yeah, for sure. Hold on, I think one of my AirPods may have died, but
Oh. Well, I
no, yeah, no, that's fine. I'll just charge this one up. I still got it in this headphone.
yeah, man. So that's like, that's to just where I'm at right now, you know? Like we talk about all of the things that we're going through, and we do it openly on here, and like I'm sure there's somebody else that has the same problem that I did, you know, like just always seeking attention for the sake of seeking attention. And I hope that somebody else can listen to what I'm saying and realize, like, you know, the person whose attention I want the most right now is my own. I want myself focusing on me, and like, because I know that's for the better, and I know that's going to make me a better person in the long run. And you know, hopefully that resonates with somebody. Like, you don't need to just be at the center of everything all the time, like, for no reason, just for the sake of making yourself feel better. There's a lot of ways to do that, and I've found that working on myself is a big one for me. It gives me that release, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I mean, and you also realize you know, in some ways, like, yeah, of course, like you meet genuine people, and I still have like genuine, very good friends that you meet from being that person, but you also realize that like that only is good to us. It's only good to a certain extent, because then as soon as you don't offer somebody something, it's kind of out the window anyway. It was always kind of like hiding behind something else.
I read a quote today that it's not gonna be exact, but it was along the lines of when you're drinking, you think you're forming these close relationships, but in reality, what you're doing is the alcohol's giving you the feeling of this is a real relationship when in fact you have no genuine connection whatsoever. It's just mending that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was me to a T, man. I mean, like, I was in that life for so long that, like, I don't know, it's trying to realize which connection, who did I actually have a connection with, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like that, and people joke about it all the time, but there's a ton of truth to it, which is that, like, how many times have you, spent the night drinking or doing other stuff, and exchanged numbers with somebody, or felt like it was like a really good time, and then, like, you meet that person sober and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it's like that person who's just like, yeah, like, bro, we're gonna wake up tomorrow and we're gonna go on a hike, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? Because you're just looking for, you're looking for ways to meet that that sober person's to, like, fulfill what that like the sober you wants. And then there's a disconnect between what you are looking for when you are doing that versus, like, when you come back to earth and you're like, that doesn't line up. And I feel like if you're always doing things like that, you're always trying to bridge that gap, and that's where things get really disconnected. And then you end up chasing back and back to try to get to that point where you're fucked up, because that's where those things happen. And I feel like that's how people get down a long road of addiction. And because it's like, I really do feel like people overlook the like social aspect of that has, obviously there's the physical things that it affects you in ways, but I think that people are, when you're doing that, you're trying to get back to that point always, and you're trying to reach that high, and then it's a huge letdown when you're sober the next day or whatever it might be, and that doesn't, the math doesn't make sense with those things.
Yeah. Well, so much for that light and breezy conversation we were going to have just to test doing a remote podcast.
I mean, this is what happens,
Yeah, man. Well, we're coming up on an hour. I feel like we're pretty much at a good spot. We figured out what we needed to figure out, and we actually had a good conversation out of it too. The next episode's a big one for us.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, no, I really am. Mm-hmm. I feel a lot better now that we figured out how to do just, our first remote one.
Yeah, and this is very usable content, I feel like, so it worked out well.
No, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
You want to take a deep breath now, since we never took one?
Yeah, we hold on.
Nice. I got to do it on my end too. That is one thing that I want to, like, try to work on, because it's like you want it to appear natural, but like of just doing, like, having, like, that light banter in the beginning that allows us to, like, transition easily into, and I think that'll come naturally, but we just have to be, like, intentional about it.
Yeah, I mean, we had an hour of light banter that we just didn't record today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, I feel much better about how, like, the things are set up and how it works, and there will be other challenges when we do the next one, but we'll deal with them. We'll feel prepared for them.
Yeah.